everybody, this is Patrick with Sasquatch in the Wild. So this story is the beginning. I'm going to talk about my very first Bigfoot event. We went camping back in September 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th of 2015. I'm going to give you some backstory here a little bit. This hat plays a part in it. My dog plays a part in it. And this camera right here played a part in it. Now the camera doesn't really work anymore. When I take pictures of things, there's a little line that appears, and it's not on the lens itself. It's actually in the processor in the back. And now when I take pictures of things, you see this line going through the images. Digital cameras, little cameras, all cameras, at some point will fail. They just do. Digital cameras will fail, and it stinks when they do. I've taken cameras down into caves. I've done 260 feet below the surface, crawling around in caves, taking photographs with DSLR cameras. I have taken this camera to the Great Barrier Reef in April of that year of my sighting. I had this in about 50 feet, 60 feet underwater with this camera, and I took all kinds of photographs with it, and I enjoyed it. It was fun to do. I'd love to go back to the Great Barrier Reef in Australia and take more photographs of the reef. Anyway, so we were trying to decide what we wanted to do. We were debating on going up to Red Feather Lakes, which is Beaver Meadows, where we normally would go, and it's a beautiful area. I don't know of too much Sasquatch activity up there. I know there's some stuff that happens up there, but I at the time I didn't care. Like prior to 2015, I didn't care about Bigfoot. I stated that in another video. But we decided not to go up there, and the biggest reason why is because it was going to be cold. September in or near Wyoming is going to be freezing, especially at night. So we were looking through all the weather reports, and it came up that our area where we were in Denver, it was raining the entire week, and it said it was going to rain until Friday. And I said, well, let's just go do Wellington Lake. After the rain quit, the temperature was supposed to ramp up to 72 degrees Fahrenheit, and it did. It was beautiful, absolutely beautiful, but it was raining prior to that, and it was a horrible, miserable rain. It's the kind of rain that just kind of drains your energy out. You just don't want to do things. So we decided to do that, and it was going to be me and Darla and Riley, and then her daughter was going to show up with her two dogs, and then her grandson was going to show up like a day or two later, and then her with his dad. So we ended up going up on we got there Thursday morning, mid-afternoon, something like that. We stopped off at the Bailey General Store, which is now called the Sasquatch Outpost. It's owned by Jim Myers. He's a really nice guy. You ever go through Colorado, stop by there, because he has some pretty cool stuff there, including a really decent museum to wander in through, and there's a lot of interesting Sasquatch facts. But at the time, that wasn't there. At the time, it was called the Bailey General Store, and that's what I knew it as. And I wandered around, trying to find some things. And there was some Bigfoot stuff in there, but again, I didn't care. I thought it was a bunch of hokey, malarkey stuff. So we grab our stuff and we drive back to Wellington Lake. And from Denver to Wellington Lake, it's an hour-and-a-half drive. From Denver to Red Feather Lakes, it's 3 hours drive. So we ended up going to Wellington Lake. So we drive to the lake, and it's privately owned. So when you walk in, you're talking to the people. If you're going there and you're gonna say, well, we're gonna do some Bigfooting, they'll kick you out. they don't put up with that. They don't put up with that at all. So we show up and we get our spot. We have a beautiful view of the lake. The mountain is behind us, the big castle is behind us. I'll show pictures of that, and it'll pop up in one of the two screens up here, or maybe the whole empty space up there. And it's not a bad lake. It's beautiful. It's quiet. It's pristine. There's not a whole lot going on. And in fact, there wasn't a whole lot of campers there either. There was a frontage road in front of us. There was another road, an access road behind us to break up the different campsites. And we had nobody to our left of us. Nobody was up on the berm. It was very, very empty. And we were like, this is great. We were so excited because there is just nobody there. So I get out and I build the tent. I get our stuff ready to have lunch, but I'm building the tent. We brought a brand new REI tent and new little 6-inch cots that stuck us off the ground a little bit. I will never do that again. I hate crawling around through tents. I'd rather just walk into a tent. That was a lesson learned. We both agreed that was just not the greatest thing on earth to do because our knees took damage from it. I put a tent or a cot to when we were crawling in. Darla was to my right. When you go in, she's to the right, I'm to the left, and I made a nest for Riley in the middle. Now when I'm laying there, literally, if you turn around and you're looking out, I'm to the true right and she's to the true left. So, or however you want to look at it. So the lake is in front of us. We have mountains behind us. And we can see the office out in front of us. So across the lake. So, we're like, all right, this is okay. I end up putting up a hammock to my right, and I kind of had it all set up and ready to go. It's hooked together with chains on either side of the hammock. If I have a picture of that, I'll show it in this video. I don't know if I have a true layout of that area. I might draw a picture and put that up there as well. I kind of show you guys what the layout of everything looked like. So we had this corridor of trees that was behind us that led up to the road. And that plays a part too. So this is the first part of the story. There's going to be about 4 or 5 parts to it. Because my phone just can't handle this kind of long videos anymore. I have to do small 30-minute videos. And that's what it's going to have to be. So we eat our dinner. Everything's all good. Darla, she goes to sleep. I take Riley out for one more walk. He comes back in. Get him all nestled. I throw a cover over him. I seal us into our tent. And it's still raining. You can still hear the rain going on outside, And my hat's not on, of course, at the time. But I'm laying there. And I'm just kind of relaxing. In fact, I'm going to take that off. And I'm just relaxing, right? There's not a whole lot of nothing going on. About midnight, I'm just laying there. I can hear the birds out on the lake. It's still raining. The rain's hitting the tent. You can hear the wind whipping around. And Darla's snoring. Riley's snoring. And at midnight, I hear, wah! And it just carries. And I turned my head. I was like, what the hell was that? And it was way, 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 way up on the mountain. And it was kind of faint, but not quite, because you could clearly hear this was a scream. Wah! And I was like, good God, what is that? That is crazy. And I looked over at Riley, asleep. I looked at Darla, still snoring away. I was like, okay, what is this? So I keep listening to this, and it's coming like this at first. And I hear it all of a sudden. It sounds like it's coming off the mountain. Like it's starting to come down into elevation to where we're at. And probably about 5-10 minutes in, as it's coming down, I feel this furry little head go, Reek! And I looked over and I could see it's Riley. So he's looking up that direction and he's going, he's sniffing, his ears are twitchy, and he seems to be kind of tracking whatever this is. Now, we can't see out the tent. Our windows are shut. But he is smelling the air. And all he could really technically smell is me, Darla, and the tent and the contents of the tent. But he is smelling. He is trying to figure out what this is. And we're both looking this direction. And it's going, wah! Wah! And as it's coming down out of elevation, it's echoing. And that echoing is going everywhere. And the birds on the lake, they went silent. They did not call out anymore. They were done. I'm sure they were swimming to the far end of the lake. This thing, whatever it was wah, 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 and it was, you could hear wah, 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 and it's just going. It's going. It's crazy, and it's moving down the mountain. Now I started to think about this. I was like, now if that's a person, because I was thinking it's not a bear. It's not. I don't think it's a mountain lion. I said, but even still, whatever this is, it's coming off the mountain. It's raining outside. There's rain coming down outside. It's still drizzly rain. Every rock on those mountains is slick. It's slick. You're going to slip, fall, and you're going to go off the edge. You're going to either fall down a crevasse, and there's a pretty big one in there, or you're going to fall and you're going to hit your head on a boulder, or you're going to break something. Something's going to happen to you. They better be running down with a flashlight, because I started to think maybe this was a person coming off the mountain, but I don't know why they would be screaming like this. It was just this crazy, audible scream. So I took out my cell phone, turned it on recorder, turned around, and I dropped it behind me in a pocket in the tent, made sure it was facing out. This thing was screaming, wah, wah, wah. Now I took notice when I turned it on that it was like, I want to say, I don't know, 12:15, 12:20 in the morning. And it's just, wah, wah. And as it comes down to our elevation, all the echoing, wah, stops, and it just becomes a viable scream, and it's the craziest scream you've ever heard. I've never heard anything like this. And I was like, it sounds like it's turning, and it's saying turns and starts coming towards our tent. It's our campsite area, and it's wah, wah, and it's coming, and Riley is now getting really agitated, and he's like, rrr, rrr. We're still looking this way going, I don't know what that is. I was like, right, you know what that is? And he's like, rrr, and I know he doesn't, but he's still, rrr, rrr. And I was like, calm down. So I put my arm around him, and I'm holding him, and I'm watching this, or I'm watching that area, but whatever this is coming. It's coming in quick, and it's getting here really fast. It's like, wah, wah, just screaming. And I started thinking, it almost sounds like a girl. It sounds like a girl screaming for whatever reason, like she broke her foot or she broke her hand or whatever. She is violently screaming. And this is a loud, really loud scream. And it's coming towards us. By the time it hits the dirt road behind us and it's coming through, Darla wakes up. And she's like, Patrick, what is that? And I said, I don't know. I said, I wish it would shut the hell up. And she goes, no. I said, no, you don't get it. This thing has been screaming since midnight. It started up on the mountain, it's down into elevation, and now it's running through our campsite. We all turned our heads, and we were all looking this direction as it's going by, and that's when I noticed there is no flashlight. There is no flashlight. But when it's running by, you can hear the heel slap of the foot against the watery ground. It was like, you could hear this going down, and it sounded like a person running down with no shoes or socks on. And they were just running out through, screaming. And we were both going, what? We were just caught off guard. Now, there were campers sporadically down that road, and they all were saying, shut up. And they're yelling, shut up, shut up. And they thought it was a girl. I started to think it was a girl, but there's no way it could be a girl because there's no flashlight. Your eyes aren't that well adjusted in the dark. Even with some cloud cover, you can see things at times. But not that. Not down where it's pitch black and there's nothing and you're under trees and all that stuff. It's running down the mountain and in pine trees and stuff. There's not enough light. There is not enough light. But this thing is running through. And it goes on and on. Now, I know that there are areas. They're private land areas all the way down. At the time, I didn't know that the Colorado Trail was there. But the section, if you Google it, it says Section 4. It goes from east to west, and this thing is running that general direction, and it's heading that way. It's heading straight that direction, and it goes through properties, but there are fences in between. So as it's going down through, some of those fences are barbed wire, and I would have thought I would have heard something. This thing hit that barbed wire and really go crazy, but it just went straight, and you could hear it. Wow. And you could hear when it was going by, you could hear the sound of, you could hear the inhale and the exhale. when it was truly going by, I thought it was a girl getting her butt kicked by a grizzly bear. I thought it was the most absurd sound, but it kept going. It kept going, and we were both of us and the dog were looking to our left as it was going down, and it kept going, and it goes wah, 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 like nothing was stopping it, slowing it down. So how it's going over the fences, I have no idea. It just kept going, and pretty soon I hear it. It sounds like it's going up in elevation again, and you start to hear the echo. And then it was gone. And I was like, what the hell? And Darla looked at me and she goes, well, it's all over, so now you can go to sleep. And I said, are you insane? It was like, that thing was so freaking loud. No, I'm going to be up all night. I'll be up all night thinking about this. I'll be up all night. So she goes, well, fine, and be up all night. And so she rolled over. She was asleep within a couple of minutes. She was snoring away. Riley was all back nestled again. I threw a blanket back over him. And I laid there with my eyes wide open. You know, just laying there going, God, is it coming back? And it never came back. It didn't venture back towards us. I was like, that was weird. I eventually fell asleep. Very next morning, I get up. And Dad says, well, you want to take Riley out? And I said, sure. So I took Riley out and took him for a walk. Came back, and I said, you know, I'm going to go for a longer walk. I'm going to go up on that road. She said, okay. So I wandered up to the road behind us and went all the way down. I was looking for footprints to see if this was a person. All I saw were fresh tire tracks running through the muddy ground. So if there were tracks there, they were gone. Walked all the way down, started seeing campers, and I saw this one guy outside. I said, did you hear by chance that scream last night? And he goes, yeah, man, I wanted to beat the hell out of that girl. And I said, do you think it was a girl? He goes, well, what do you think it was? And I said, I don't know. When did you start hearing it? He said he heard it around the 1 o'clock era, or the 1 o'clock time frame. And I said, it started at midnight. And he looked at me and goes, are you serious? And I said, yeah, it started up on top of the mountain behind me, way up there. And I pointed to where I thought it came from. And he said, oh my God. And I said, did you see a flashlight? And he goes, no. And I said, well, that person, if that was a person, came off that mountain without a flashlight. And he's like, oh my God. And I said, yeah, I don't know what to think of it. And he goes, I was so mad because that disrupted my sleep. And he said, everybody down there was talking about it. So I went on further with the dog. And I said, it was nice talking to you. He goes, yep, you too. So he went back to do his thing. And I talked to every person that I saw that heard it. And they all said the same thing. They all thought it was a girl. They all thought maybe she was pranking people. But they said that it ran straight through the grass. And you could see where she ran. You could see where the grass was disturbed all the way to the fence. And the fence had a little dent in it, right where it went through. And on the other side, you could see where it kept going. Now, I didn't bring my camera with me, and my phone was still recording in the back, at least I thought. So I went walking back to the tent, and I brought Riley, and it's still raining on us. And I was like, you know, I'm going to make us breakfast, but I want to go into Bailey. I want to talk to Jim. And she said, okay. And I said, oh, my phone. And so I reached in and pulled the phone out, and I was listening, and I had the recording. I was like, oh, this is cool. I had recorded 45 minutes of that scream. It lasted for 2 hours. So in 2 hours, whatever this was, I know a human being can't do this. You start at the top of this mountain, and you come down in the pitch black darkness without falling or injuring yourself, all the way down to our area, and then you are down to our elevation. Then you're running the length of almost that lake to get to our campsite in 1 hour. Now, maybe it's possible, I don't know. But by the second hour, you're all the way down to roughly the Colorado Trail, and you're going back up. So you have to be all the way down and up and over that trail within a 2 hour time frame. I don't think there's enough healthy people to do that. It just seems way out of positioning. And you're exerting all this energy by screaming, right? So I grabbed my cell phone, drive it back into Bailey. I said, Jim, is this a Sasquatch? He listened to it and he goes, no, this is not a Sasquatch. It's an animal. I said, are you sure? And he goes, yeah, it's just an animal. I'm like, all right. Okay, just an animal. And I said, what does a Bigfoot look like? And he goes, you don't know? I said, no. Now, I had seen, off and on, I would watch the BFRO doing this stuff. And I never paid attention to what Bob Gimlin filmed. I didn't care. But he showed me. He said, "This is Patty." And I said, "That's what Bigfoot looks like?" He goes, "Yes. And they all look like that." He's wrong. They don't all look like that. They don't. Patty looks like that. I've seen females. I've seen males. I've seen all that. I have not seen one Sasquatch yet in Colorado that looks like Patty. Nope. Sorry. It's just not so. But at the time, I thought that that's what they all looked like. And I learned my lesson later that day. So I went back and I showed Darla I told her, I said, no. And she goes, what? And I said, was it a Sasquatch? And he said, no, it's an animal. Some type of animal. She goes, see? And I said, that doesn't make any sense, Darla. I heard this thing run through. I heard it run through the campsite or behind us. I could hear the hill hit with a slap of the foot. That's what made me think there was a person. It doesn't make any sense. So a little bit later, her daughter shows up. And we had our breakfast, and her daughter shows up. And she brought with her two dogs. One was a pit bull, one was a black lab. The pit bull's name was Angie, and the black lab was Dexter. Dexter was a goofy dog. Angie puts up with his goofiness. And they get along with Riley. So they showed up. They're playing around. We got them all hooked up so they can't run away. And we built her giant tent. At the time, I thought I'd never have a giant tent. Now I own two. One tent is 9 feet tall and 14 feet diameter, and that's a teepee, and that's a wonderful tent to have. The other one is more squared off, and if I decide to ever rip out the flooring of this, which I might do this year, then I actually might have some new encounters with Sasquatch at different areas in Colorado. Anyway, there's stories behind why you don't want to have a floor and why you do. There's reasons. So we get her all built up. We put her cots in her tent, and she goes out. She goes, I'm going to go for a walk. And I said, okay. The rain quit raining. I took my hat off and took my coat off, and it was getting warm. She comes walking back, and she said, hey, there's a waterfall trail back here. Do you want to go? And I was like, oh, yeah, I never knew there was a waterfall trail back here. And she goes, I didn't either. I didn't know there was a waterfall. It's like, oh, that's got to be cool looking. It was dried. There was nothing impressive about it. But I'm sure it's beautiful when it's running. It wasn't running when I was there. So she said, yeah, let's go for a walk. I would love to go do that hike. I'll get the dogs hooked up. And so she goes back with her dogs inside the tent, and she starts getting everything all hooked up for them. And I take my hat off, my coat off, and I'm getting ready to put it in the car. The clouds come back over, and it starts to rain. I'm like, oh, dang it. So I pick up my hat, put my hat back on. She comes out, and she goes, is it raining? I said, yes, it's raining. And she's like, oh, I'm not going to go. I said, why? And she goes, it's raining. I said, so what? It's just rain. And she said, the dogs are going to get wet. They're going to stink. And I have to sleep with two stinky dogs. No, I'm not going to do that. So she goes back into her tent. And she goes, you can go on your own. And then she said, you can see if Mom wants to go. But she sealed herself in. I was like, all right. So I walk over to the tent, get down, look in it. I said, Darla, do you want to go for a hike? And there's a waterfall trail over there. And she goes, is it raining? I went, yes. She said, nope, I don't want to go. I was like, oh. She goes, well, you can go. I said, I know I can go. And I should have gone alone, but I didn't. So she said, take Riley. And I was like, So I look at Riley, and he's just looking right at Darla. And I said, Riley. And he looked at me. And I said, do you want to go for a hike? And he just kind of looked at me strange. And I said, do you want to go for a walk? And his ears perked up. Man, he was like, oh, yeah. So I brought out his harness. I set him down. He comes up, and I put him into the harness. And I got him all set up. And I said, we're ready to go. I said, you know what? I'm going to leave my cell phone here because I don't need it. I mean, what am I going to do? I can't call you if there's an emergency. She goes, okay, but I did take my camera. This is an important tool. So I thought I'd just take some photographs of some things and call it good. Maybe I'll find something cool to photograph. I always love taking pictures of things. Even if it's just random stuff, I'll take pictures of it. So we go walking up past DeAndre's tent. I said, where is this trail at? And she goes, it's about 30 feet down from when you hit the dirt road that's right behind our campsite. I was like, you know, I walked all the way down there. I walked all the way down to the fence line. And she goes, I didn't see a trail. And she goes, it's kind of hidden, but it's there. And I was like, okay. So I went down, and sure enough, there's a little path that veers off, and there's a sign posted saying Waterfall Trail. It's funny how I missed that, but I probably wasn't looking for it. I walked down to where it splits. And the sign, there's a double sign that says Waterfall Trail that way. So you had to figure out which way you want to go. To the left, it's just the Waterfall Trail. To the right is the Scenic Trail. Now, I'm stopping this here because it's 27 minutes into this. I'm gonna tell you about that vocal. So I ended up taking that vocal to the aquarium where I used to work. I was there for like 6.5, 7 years. And I walked in and I said, hey guys, what is this sound? And they played it. And I've heard various people telling me they thought it was a fox. But then I've heard other people say, I don't know what it is. But these guys said it's a fox. And I said, how long does a fox make that noise? And they said 5 minutes. Any longer than that? And they were like, no, foxes don't do that longer. The reason why they don't do it longer is because a predator will come in, kill that fox, or follow it back to its den and kill that and the pups. And so they said they don't do it. They will stay in the area, close area, and keep the predators away from the den. The other thing is foxes don't leave long distance away from their hunting grounds. They stay. If they're up on the mountain, they stay on the mountain. They don't come down in elevation. And I said, well, I heard that sound for 2 hours, and I got 45 minutes recorded of it. And their eyeballs went, and they're like, are you serious? And I went, yeah, I don't know what the hell this is then. And they re-listened to it, and I was like, I don't know either. And I said, so does anything mimic a fox? They said, no, there's nothing that can mimic a fox in Colorado. Is there anything that can mimic anything in Colorado? And they said, no. They were wrong. I found something out. So, and it's not Sasquatch necessarily related. So I said, do we know anybody over at Denver, the Denver Zoo? And they said, yeah, we know the curator and we know the staff over there too. I said, okay, can we call them? And they said, sure. So we put me on the speakerphone. We were talking to them and they said the same thing. It sounds like a fox. And they said, hold on. He heard this thing for 2 hours and he's got 45 minutes recorded. And they said, are you kidding me? I was like, no. And they're like, well, then we don't know what it is. And I said, is it possible I discovered a new animal? And they said, it's highly unlikely. There's got to be a reason for that sound. And I was like, I don't know what it is. And they said, I don't know what it is either. So I was watching one of the BFRO shows, and Cliff Brockman gets up on stage, or up on the thing, and he's going to do this vocal. And his vocal is this. Wah! And it's the same exact sound I heard. The exact same sound that I recorded that weekend. Cliff Brockman did it. And I was like, son of a gun. I was like, that's no way. That is actually what it sounds like. And everybody in the local area of Colorado said it was an animal and not Sasquatch. Cliff Brockman stated, that's a Sasquatch. That's what a Sasquatch sounds like. Gonna let you go. It's 30 minutes. I will see you when I see you. Part 2 will be out on Wednesday, 6 p.m. See you later.